So for my case study, I was able to get my nephew to do the 3 day diary analysis. His parents didn't want me to use his full name, so I went ahead and picked Carlton out for him. So just some background information on Carlton. He's a 15-year-old male. He just finished his sophomore year of high school. He's 5'8". He's 155 pounds. He has a BMI of 23.6, and his goal for this summer is to gain some weight. He's always complaining about having a fast metabolism, but as well as having a fast metabolism, he's a very active kid. He works out 5 days a week. He does cardio. He does weightlifting, and he's also playing summer baseball and summer basketball. So he does a lot in terms of being active. So like I mentioned earlier, his goal is to gain 10 pounds this summer. So one of the issues I was explaining to him is that when gaining weight, you're going to have to increase your caloric intake. You have to. Because as well as having a fast metabolism, you are very active. You work out a lot. So in increasing your caloric intake, for you to actually gain the weight, you have to ingest more calories than you're expending. And when you're working out, you're expending a lot of calories. But if you can get enough calories in and you can weightlift, you'll be able to increase your muscle mass. So that's his goal for the summer. So I asked him to take a 3 day diary of his diet. And, he just finished his high school academic year. So his parents work full time Monday through Saturday. So for Friday and Saturday, for these days, you can see that he has a lot of processed foods here, as well as at nighttime eating cereal, as well as the amounts of fluids that are in water. So here he has 24 ounces of orange juice, 24 ounces of Gatorade, 12 ounces of ginger ale, as well as 1.5 servings of milk, which is about 12 ounces. So compared to the 26 ounces of water. The white rice, beans with grilled chicken was a homemade meal by his mother. But this here as well was bought at a local grocery store in the morning. So all this food besides his dinner was processed foods, as well as a lot of soft drinks. So moving into Saturday, he had 6 pancakes with some fruit and 16 ounces of milk. At 6 p.m., he had Domino's pizza. And at nighttime, he had cereal. So again, the amount of milk, he had 12 ounces in the morning, he had 12 ounces at night, 28 ounces of milk, 24 ounces of ginger ale. And the Domino's pizza, when I actually put that into the program, the software to analyze it, the fact that it was 5 large slices, it actually skewed the statistics. So when we look at the statistics in a few more slides, I want you to remember that the Domino's meal is kind of an outlier. It's kind of a binge meal. So it's going to skew the statistics in terms of overall caloric intake per day and whatnot. So for Sunday, his mom was home all day. His parents were home all day. So he had a home cooked meal. And you can tell his parents were home because look at the amount of water he drank. He drank 12 ounces right before the meal, 16 during, 12 in the afternoon, and then even 10 at night. But again, here he went to 7-Eleven and got some processed foods, some Gatorade, some Skittles, as well as some more processed cereal. So in terms of getting the caloric intake, Sunday, he didn't have much processed foods. So the caloric intake for Sunday was about 2,400 compared to the first 2 days that were but over 3,500 calories per day. So when I went ahead and I put all that information in the program, I was able to get goals that he should be hitting daily. So here he should be getting 4,000 calories a day, Um, 65% of his calories should come from carbs, toward 35 from protein, 35 from fat. So here we can see his statistics, what he was able to do over 3 days, and his assessment. The caloric intake is at 4,000, the goal, and he wasn't even able to hit that, and he felt like he was eating a lot. As well as the carbs. The carbs is below the goal of 65%. And with someone being so active and someone being in sports and working out, you should be eating more carbs. Carbs provide energy. Um, so as I was saying earlier, calories. The caloric intake was 1,000 from the goal. And by the way, this didn't take into effect his active lifestyle either. So the goal of having 4,000 is for someone who is sedentary. So well, very lightly active, and he's actually very active. So this goal might not be as accurate as you want it to be, but as same thing with the caloric per day, because he had that binge meal and all the processed foods. The first 2 days were 3,500. The last day was 2,200. So this sample size is it's not the greatest for a consistent diet, but we're gonna work with what we have for 3 days. So here, like I mentioned earlier, from protein, these numbers are very skewed, and that had to do with the Papa John's, or not the Papa John's, but the Domino's pizza meal. So I would comment on this, but I really think this is statistically skewed. So, but in terms of protein, if you are going to ingest protein, you should be getting high quality proteins, not from processed foods. And I'll go into some recommendations as we go along through these slides. So another issue that I saw going through the analysis is that the total sugar was at 195 grams per day, and a lot of that comes from the soft drinks he's drinking. He's drinking a lot of soft drinks, and to be honest with you, he's probably drinking more soft drinks than he actually put on his diary. Because sometimes you don't really notice that you're drinking all these sugary drinks until you actually write them down. So yeah, that's one thing that I would suggest. And a correlation from the soft drinks is here, as you go all the way to the bottom, if you follow my cursor, is the water intake. He's having 1,000 grams of water per day when he should be having 3,300. So if you can decrease the soft drinks and increase the water intake, you'll have less sugar in the body. Sugar is not going to be beneficial if you're trying to gain weight. If you're going to try to gain weight, you want to eat right as well as exercise correctly. Lastly, two things that I see are the saturated fats. If you're gonna eat fat, you did a good job not eating trans fat, but you should try and increase your mono and poly fats. These are your good fats, and as you can see, the good fats are very low. The bad fats are close to where it shouldn't be. It should be less than 40, and he's close to 35. So just food selection, just choosing better foods, and that all starts from the processed foods, from the Domino's, the Subway, the 7-Eleven. And with saturated foods, you're gonna have an increase in cholesterol. And one point that's not actually here on the slide, but is actually on the full report, is that the sodium intake was triple the amount, the goal for the day, because of all the processed foods in the pizza and specifically Subway. I know from experience, Subway uses a lot of sodium in their food, and not just Subway, most junk foods and fast food places. So just moving on, and then this is just another graph of the source of calories. So like I mentioned earlier, the carbohydrates were low. It should be more towards 65%. Protein was 18%, 142.9 grams. And in terms of fat, the mono and poly fats should be increased, more likely the monos, but the saturated fat should be decreased. And then he did a good job with the trans fat. And then in terms of exchanges here on this side of the screen, on the right side of the screen, he should be ingesting more fruit, more vegetables, and the starch. If he can decrease his starch by increasing eating more complex carbs, for energy expenditure for someone who's going to be an athlete, potatoes, pastas, some heavy carbohydrates that can sustain energy for you over an event or a workout or whatnot. And then these are just basic recommendations from the program. So of course here is going to just give you, you should be at 600, almost at 600 grams of carbs and whatnot. But just from the diet alone, there's easy things that could be changed. In terms of the processed foods, I know that it may be difficult with the parents not at home, but if you're really dedicated to gain weight, you're really gonna have to put in the time to change your diet. And I know from knowing his parents, it could be done because their parents are very health aware. They love the fruits, they love the vegetables, they love to work out as well. So I think it's just communication between parent and kid. But to be honest with you, to give him advice on what he should eat, it's very difficult. He doesn't have an income. His parents aren't home, the majority of the week. So it's not like his parents can cook him anything or make him anything. So it's up to him to actually make the food. And it's just a lot easier to just buy, Subway, go down the street, buy something to eat. So, some recommendations would be, try and eat more fruit at home. Because I know in his house, he has fruit, he has vegetables. He chooses not to eat them. But to get to that caloric intake of 4,000, it's going to be very difficult. So I would advise him in terms of trying to get the complex carbs, the potatoes, the rice, lean meat for protein. In terms of fats, there's different fats that you can eat that are really good for the diet. Avocados, coconut oil, fatty fishes. So there's just a bunch of different food selections that he can just substitute for what he's eating now, because how much worse can it get from eating junk food to eating fresh food from home. So overall, I think his goal to gain weight, it's going to be very difficult. He has to really put in the work to actually get in all his calories. And not to get bad calories. The soft drinks should be substituted with water. If he's having a really intense workout with football or baseball or basketball, because he does all three, Gatorade could work. But to have a Gatorade every day without working out, that also increases your sodium. So overall, for this case study, I don't think the 3-day analysis for a teenager is going to be very consistent, but for someone who is very dedicated to his sports and whatnot, if he is going to try and hit his goal, I would suggest more calories, whole foods, healthier foods. And in terms of food selection, it's really out of his control, but what he does have at home is fruits, it's vegetables, so it's up to him to choose better foods to eat. And hopefully he can take some of this information and apply it to his summer, because if he really wants to gain weight, he's gonna have to apply some of this information to his everyday life. So yeah, these are my references, and I hope you guys enjoyed this case study. Thank you.